Hello, this is Anna Laura Brown, host of the Autoimmune Rehab podcast, where we talk about how to actually thrive and heal your autoimmune condition rather than just covering it up with pills or changing your diet and hoping you'll feel better one day. We feature solo episodes on helpful topics and interviews with guests who have actually walked in your shoes with autoimmune disorders and or who have years of experience in helping to thrive and not just survive with autoimmune challenges. I'm a health coach who started this podcast because I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's in 2018, and I wanted to inspire hope and transform health for people with autoimmune challenges. So keep listening and let's get you the help and hope you really need. This is the Autoimmune Rehab Podcast. Today's episode, I'm happy to welcome Kate McDowell, who's going to share with us her story about MS. And I know that some of you maybe have heard some of the other stories we've had on MS on this podcast, but they're all very different. So if you were to listen to all of them, you would learn very different and unique things from all of them. So welcome to the podcast, Kate. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about your story and what leads you to coming here and sharing with those of us on autoimmune rehab?
Thank you, Anna Laura. I'm really happy to be here. And I agree with what you said about everyone's going to have a very different story when it comes to MS. And I've definitely experienced that in my own journey and with working with clients as well, that it's all very unique and very different. And my story has its own twists as well. I was diagnosed when I was 22 years old. I woke up one morning and half of my body was numb and I just brushed it off. I thought, I'm young, I'm healthy. What's going on? So maybe I just slept funny. So by the end of the week, I realized that something was going on and went to the hospital. And they immediately rushed me into acute care, which was scary because I just thought I probably just slept funny, right? And went through all the rigmaroles of testing, and a doctor I hadn't seen before walked in to my room and said, I'm diagnosing you with MS. And it was a shock. I didn't even know anything about it. I was 22 years old. And so I went through a phase of my own pity party and woe is me, but then started to realize the moment that the doctor said to me, you have MS, wasn't the moment that I got the condition. It was just the moment that I had awareness of it. And so that's when I started to think, okay, so what can I do from here? And I did go through a long phase of my life. For 7 years, I went to my doctor, and I was a kid who grew up thinking if there's anything wrong with your health, you go to your doctor and they're the solution. And so I took the medication. I did the disease modifying drugs, as they call them, for 7 years, and my quality of life declined. And so I went back to my doctor and said something, and they increased my dose, or they put me on something stronger. And then I had side effects from that. I would fall asleep on the way driving home from work. So then they put me on something, they give narcoleptics to keep me awake. But then I couldn't sleep at night. So I needed something to sleep at night. And it was just this cycle of, oh, we'll just give you another medication. We'll just give you another medication. And when I was in my late 20s, my doctor had said to me, you're going to be in a wheelchair by the time you're 30. And that was a big shock for me because I thought the solution was to be the model patient, to take all the medication, to go to all the testing. And nothing had come to my mind that there may be something different or there could be other things that I could try and I could do for myself. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And that's, I think, what a lot of us get stuck in this whole med symptom cycle.
Hmm.
And that's, what those of us that are trained to believe that Western medicine has the one and only solution, that's what we get stuck in. So, what was that turning point that got you saying, aha, maybe there's something different that I should be doing here?
Well, I went through years of raising money for the MS Society because I thought that was going to be the solution. They would come up with a cure and it would fix everything for me. And so I'd raise money every year, and I went to my best friend one year and said, will you sponsor me for the MS bike ride? And she said, I love you. I will absolutely sponsor you, but they're never going to come up with a cure, right? And it was like a slap in the face, like a knife in the heart, and it hurt. And for a while, I didn't know what to do with that, but I went home and I couldn't stop thinking about it. And what I came to realize was that she was absolutely right. I was waiting for something outside of myself to be the solution, to come and fix things for me. And what I needed to do was start looking for ways and things I could do for myself. And so I've listened to some of your episodes before, and I know that people have mentioned Dr. Terry Walls.
Hmm.
And that was my first awareness. I was not seeing the other opportunities before that. But in that moment, suddenly my perspective shifted and other things started to show up. It was 2011, so it was before like TikTok. This was years ago. And the Terry Walls Minding Your Mitochondria video ended up in my inbox somehow. And I watched it and I was like, holy crap, this woman is in worse shape than I am, and she's getting better. And I'd been all these years of taking this medication and never felt better. I continued to feel worse. And so diet change is something it's hard to do, but it's easy to do at the same time, right? And it's not the only solution for people, but when I started to change my diet, it was the first time in 7 years that I'd started to feel better, started to feel a shift in the right direction. And I was like, okay, I'm on to something. So I've continued with the diet. Like I haven't made a ton of changes. That was 13 years ago that I started that. But then from there, it was like, what else can I do? What else can I do? And I eventually got to the point where I don't take MS, the medication, anymore. I haven't since 2016. And I know for some people, they will still take it, and that's the support that they need. But I had this moment of like, I don't want anything to do with MS. And I think that was a big part of the journey for me as well, was letting go or deciding that I was not going to hold on to the label anymore,
Yeah, that's
that
a
I
good one
wanted.
because I think too many of us do get stuck in the rut of thinking we have this
Mhm.
label, whether it's MS, whether it's Hashimoto's, whether it's lupus, whether it's some other autoimmune, we have this label and we think that, we have to hold on to the label or think once we've got that label, then we have that forever. And it's like, no, you don't have to have that forever.
Yeah. Well, and when your doctor tells you there's nothing you can do, we can accept that. I accepted that for 7 years. And, changing diet, it was like, oh, maybe there is something I can do. And then from there, I was like, what else can I do? And there was lots of lifestyle related changes as well. And healing some past traumas, I think, was a big part of my journey as well. But it's like, even if you're taking the medication or whatever it is, if you have symptoms that are worse than other people, it's like, is there not something you can do? If you felt 1% better tomorrow, isn't it worth it?
Oh yeah,
Right?
absolutely. So was it the Walls Protocol diet that you went on then?
Pretty much. I started with paleo.
Okay.
I did that for quite a while. I did switch to keto at one point. I've done carnivore. I've tried raw vegan. That did not go well for me. Um, but yeah, I'm ultimately carnivore. I'm on carnivore right now. I feel the best on that, which some people think is really extreme, but you have to find what's right for you, right? And that's the uniqueness of us all. It's not a one size fits all. And the label of MS, it's like we need to have individuality because we're all different people. I grew up in a moldy house. My parents split when I was 4 years old, and I had a lot of responsibility. Like, we've all had different experiences, both life experiences, but then chemical experiences, toxins, heavy metals, parasites, bacteria, all of the different things. So, how can you just paint one picture with the same brush, the same
Oh,
color,
absolutely. Yeah,
right?
you absolutely can. Yeah, that's a good point too, is we all grow up with different experiences. Our bodies are made up different. I mean, even those of us that have researched a little bit of right behind there's studies out that say even your blood type can influence the kind of diet that can
Yeah.
benefit you as a person
I'm an
too.
A, just so you know, which
Yeah,
is like not what's supposed to do well with carnivore. So,
I know that is interesting. Yeah, because I'm an A as well, and they say the
mhm,
A's do better with, more like the vegetarian
plant.
slash vegan. And I did interview one other lady that vegan was actually what she did with her MS. But yeah,
Mhm.
I know personally that I don't do, even though I'm an A, I haven't tried carnivore specifically, but I don't do super well without some meat, like the
Animal.
whole vegan thing I don't do well with either. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I have opinion around that, but I'll keep that to
Yeah,
myself.
that's okay.
But I
No, I
think,
mean, I think, and just my personal experience is that, I mean, we have to all do what you feel like suits you best. But
mhm,
from my experiences, from the people I've talked to, things I've read, I don't generally recommend vegan for anybody with an autoimmune condition. That's just my personal experience. But,
yeah, I find it's great short term, but it's too breakdown. The
yeah,
body needs to rebuild.
yeah. Well, and there's actually also minerals and vitamins and collagen and
Hmm.
things like that in meat products that you just can't get from vegetables.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
a lot of vegans try to say, well, we'll just supplement, but just a lot of
It's not
time
the
doesn't
same.
work.
Yeah.
Not the same. But anyhow, yeah, that's interesting. So, what are some of the other lifestyle changes that you've made that you feel like have been beneficial for you?
Definitely making sure you poop every day is a big one to focus on, right? Like stagnation in the body is not going to be healthy. So making sure you're well hydrated, making sure that yes, you're having regular bowel movements, your drainage pathways are open. Like if you're dealing with a lot of acne or you're dealing with lots of things coming up in your skin, your body is trying to tell you that there's something going on internally. If it's your liver, if it's your colon, something that's not moving toxins out of the system. And I think that's a lot of the diet changes that happened and other stuff as well. But it's like autoimmune, your body is attacking something. And I'm not sure that I believe that it's attacking itself or it's trying to attack something that doesn't belong there and that your tissues are just getting in the way. And so, if we're trying to clean things up, we need to make sure that things are moving out of the system effectively and efficiently. So, that's a really big one for me. Yeah, making sure you're well hydrated, making sure you're spending some time for yourself too. Like I said, I was an only child and I was a single parent family from the age of 4. And so I had a lot of responsibility. I grew up as a 4-year old. And not taking time for yourself can be really hard on the system too, right? It's what is stressing your body and how can you minimize or reduce at least the stress that your body's dealing with a little bit at a time, but as much as you can. Because a body that's under stress, I mean, it's fight or flight all the time, right? So that was something that was really big. I mean, food was number one for me, but then, yeah, what are the other things I can do? Can I make sure that I'm getting good quality sleep? Can I make sure I'm hanging around with people that are positive? Like positivity breeds positivity. Being around people that are just commiserating and negative is going to lead to more negativity in your life too. So, what are the things you can do that make your body perform well and that make you feel good, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's true. Yeah, and you're right. I mean, a lot of the doctors will say, oh, it means, the different autoimmunes are determined by, the body attacking itself and stuff. And sometimes I think, I don't know. I'm kind of with you. I kind of think, is that really a thing? And I mean, I guess from a scientific perspective, to some degree, it's a thing, but it's still,
But why?
there's a lot of
Why?
other things that are impacting it. It's like the why,
Hmm. Yeah,
behind that.
yeah,
Because it's
like,
not just a normal thing for that to just happen.
yeah. These are brilliant pieces of machinery, our bodies. Like, why would they attack themselves? So if the body's attacking, there's usually a reason. And that's one of I mean, medicine, we need medicine. They're amazing for emergencies, but I don't think why is asked often enough because why is your body attacking? And how can you prevent that, right? It could be something simple, which is the crazy part too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. And I've seen even with some autoimmune, so supposed autoimmune, it can be things like some kind of an infection someone got at
Hmm.
some point that triggered it. I mean, it could even be things like chemicals from too much sugar, processed foods, sodas. I mean, there's just a lot of things that go into it. And so to just assume that you have that label and that you can do nothing is just crazy. And the
Yeah.
fact that even sometimes doctors, if you say why, they don't have the answer or they get annoyed if you try to ask why. And it's
Hmm.
like, but
Yeah.
that's part of what you really need to do to be able to heal is to ask yourself, why do I have this? And
Yeah.
what's causing it?
The body is always trying to heal itself. That's usually
Yeah.
what I'm trying to look at with clients too. Your body is always trying to heal itself. And if it's not able to do that, Why? What's getting in the way or what's missing? Because it could be a nutrient deficiency, or it could be, like you said, an infection. So there could be underlying a parasite infection or bacteria. Lyme is one that I often will see. I've had Lyme as well. I had a like classic bullseye tick bite like 5 or 6 years after I was diagnosed with MS. But
Mhm.
it's, we don't pay enough attention to these things, and they can show up as other things. And I mean, a diagnosis really is a label that gives, we can give you this medication once you have this. And it can feel good to get a diagnosis if you've been kind of gaslit by doctors and told like, oh, there's nothing wrong with you, it's all in your head. It's nice to be like, oh, you have MS. Okay, thank you. You're listening to me. Now you're telling me something that I can work with. But then where do you go from there? And I found that was a place where Western medicine kind of fell short for me. And then even when I started using nutrition and feeling better, my doctor was like, "Oh, I don't know anything about that." And
Well,
it's
yeah,
like,
because they don't. I've heard the statistic that most doctors get one 24-hour equivalent of, one, maybe 2 days worth of training on nutrition.
yeah.
They just don't get trained unless they're either in functional medicine or they graduate from med school and then a few years down the road they start realizing that it's more important, then they start educating themselves on it and going to seminars and things, and then they'll know
Yeah.
about it. But a lot of them, unless they choose to voluntarily pursue it, they don't know about it.
Hmm. Yeah. It's not they're lying to you, they just don't know, right?
Yeah, they just absolutely don't know. So fast forward to today, and you say that you are a health coach that works with clients. You work primarily with people that have MS, or what's your area of specialty that you've gotten into?
I don't. I didn't get into MS because of experiences I had with support groups and seeing how when I started to do things and get better, I went into the support group. I wasn't a nutritionist at the time, but I said, like, I've changed my diet and I'm feeling better. And got a lot of pushback from people that I wasn't expecting. And I don't know, I just, the experience I had was that, like we talked about the label side of things, and some people are very comfortable staying there, which is totally fine. But I work with typically chronic illness people, so not specifically MS. If someone comes to me with MS, absolutely, I'm more than happy to have a conversation. And if we are a good fit and they are willing to do the hard stuff, because it's not going to be easy, but there are things you can do, then I'm open to that. But I'm a certified nutritionist, and I also do frequency testing because everything in our body is energy. And the
Yep.
body, symptoms, the body is always trying to talk to you. But the unfortunate part is it doesn't speak English, it speaks in energy. And so, muscle testing, frequency testing, we can tap into all your organs and glands and see where are the areas that aren't functioning optimally. Then we can prioritize, okay, what do we need to start with and what's causing it? So I do test for things like Lyme, like heavy metals, parasites, mold, food, stress, all the different things that can be causing problems in our body, and then figure out from a supplement perspective or if there's food changes that need to be made or lifestyle changes. The goal is to help the person's body get back into balance because that's when healing can happen.
That's awesome. That's great. So if somebody wants to get in touch with you, tell us where they should do that, and then we'll make sure that we include the links in the episode below.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, they can go to our website, alignednaturalhealth.com, and book a free discovery call.
Awesome. Cool. We'll make sure we link that below. And then I have a pretty good idea of what you might say to this, but I always like to ask all my guests as the very last question. If you could go back in time to 22-year-old Kate, the day you got your MS diagnosis, and tell her something and give her a piece of advice, what would you say to her?
That's a really good question. You're stronger than you think. Don't let anyone convince you that you're not. And just don't give up. Like it's not that I gave up, but I was misguided. I was focusing on being the model patient and on raising all the money for someone else to come and save me. And I wish that going back, I would have said like, okay, maybe I should explore other options rather than just jumping into the beliefs that I'd been brought up with, right? So, I mean, look for other options. There's so much you can do for yourself. And when you hear that there's nothing you can do, it's not true.
It's awesome. So let's end on that. Then when you hear there's nothing you can do, it's not true. So believe there's other options and go find them.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for
Yep,
having me.
yep, absolutely. That's great. So if those of you that are listening to this, like I said, if you feel like you could benefit from connecting with Kate, reach out and connect with her. If you've enjoyed this episode, please feel free to rate it, write a review, and share it with other people that you know can benefit from it.